Hey everybody, it's Brad. I am back with Jason, and we are going to do a joint review. It's been a while since we've done one of these.
I couldn't even tell you when the last one was.
I honestly don't remember. Was it like Gone with the Wind or something like that?
I think it was Titanic.
Okay.
Dead frozen babies.
It's been a while. Let's just say that.
It has been.
But we if you've watched any of our other videos, you have heard us talk about this movie. You've heard Jason bring it up, Crabs, especially the video that we did with Andrew and the girls from Spare Parts.
Yes.
You were asking about Crabs, and he was like, 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks.
You know, it was always 2 weeks. It was always 2 weeks.
Always 2 weeks.
And it never happened.
It never did. And
but it's
I had the opportunity in March to see this at Horror Hound. We have a Horror Hound in Cincinnati every year, and it played there. You unfortunately couldn't make it due to kids' sports.
Yes.
But I talked to the director. He sent us a screener, so we both got to see it.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it here soon. I got to sit down and talk to the director, Pierce Berolzheimer, and we talked all things Crabs and how the process went and everything else. And unfortunately, again, Jason couldn't make it, but it's still good. It's all good. It's all good. You know, life is busy for everybody right now.
The good news is sports are almost done. Kids' sports are almost done. This is it. And you know what? We might actually be able to talk some other films, Brad, here in the next couple weeks. Like
what?
I'm kind of shocked. I think I'm okay. I think this is our dead period.
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it through.
I think so. 2 days left. That's it. We're good.
But we're gonna talk Crabs, but before we dig into the film, let's transition over and let you guys see the interview I had with Pierce, and we'll be back on the other side. I have a chance here to sit down with Pierce and talk about Crabs, which I'm really excited about. How are you doing today, Pierce?
I'm great. Doing really well. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I know you and I connected back in March. You were out here for Horror Hound, and you got to show the film out here during their film fest, and that's where I saw it. Thought it was an absolute blast. So I was like, I have to get you on. We got to talk about it. How have things been? I mean, since that viewing in March, I mean, have you done more screenings since then?
We have. It's been really wild because since March, we've made the decision to self-distribute in the US. And so when I went out to make this movie, I had no real idea of even how to make a feature. I've done a bunch of shorts and stuff, but
okay.
Now I'm learning I learned about how to make a movie and how to get it finished and how to do post-production and all that. And now I'm learning about how to actually get a movie out into the world if you don't go with a distributor. And so we're going through QC passes to try to get it on iTunes, and we have to get specifics for artwork, and we're working on a physical release. And so there's a whole other world of marketing and like packaging a product that typically is done by a distribution company. But that wasn't going to work for us. And so I'm doing it all myself. And so it's been a long learning process.
Okay.
But, it's been good. It's challenging, but it's rewarding too.
And you might not be able to say, is there a reason you decided self-distribution over other avenues, or just what worked for you?
Part of it was that the offers for our budget, the offers weren't going to work for us, basically.
Okay.
The offers we got. And part of that has to do with, there's a lot of, eventually we'll talk about all of this world in detail.
Totally fine.
But the distribution model is changing really quickly.
Yes.
And things like, I'm not sure that independent filmmakers need distribution companies in the same way that they used to in order to get their films out there. And we're also in an incredibly unique position where we put a trailer up on Raven Banner's our sales agent, and they're doing Canadian distribution for us. And they put a trailer and a clip from Crabs up on their website, and we got 14 million views in like 7 days. And then so we've gotten a lot of viral success. And so we have an audience already built in. We don't have to find our audience.
Yeah.
We just have to market to our audience and say, hey, here's the movie, go buy it when it's available. Or, here's some cool features that you can check out on our Instagram and our TikTok that might get you hyped for the release. But we don't actually need to find our audience, which is what is typically done by a distribution company. They have to market and find the audience for the film. We don't have to do that. Our audience has already found us. And so we're really fortunate in that way. The other thing is, when I went to distribution companies in the US, not very many of them were interested in marketing to the audience we already had. They wanted to spend their marketing fee on their traditional way of marketing, which would be using their socials and not doing direct paid advertising to the people who've already shown interest. And to me, that just sounded like a really old way to think about how to connect with an audience in 2022 when we can do it directly. Like, I can just go on TikTok or Instagram, whatever, or Facebook, and look at the people that have already liked the project and use that analytic in order to remarket to the same group. And so it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble, and I really hope it pays off.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the landscape within the last 2 years for this has changed. And I know a lot of companies are still trying to figure it out and catch up and where to go. So it's, you're kind of at the front of that, trying to, like, you know what, let's just go for it.
Yeah. We're going to roll the dice, see what happens. But it's, and then the other thing is, like, the amount of time with a lot of the contracts is such that unless you make a movie, I mean, the budget of Crabs was it's a low budget movie, but it's not the lowest of the low tier. It's our budget is vastly under $1 million, but we're not $100,000, right? And so the offers that we were getting and the way that you would recoup money over a period of time going a traditional distribution route basically means that you won't see any money for a really long amount of time. And I didn't want to wait, 5-10 years before we started seeing return on investment. And so the way that we're doing it now, we're going to maintain 100% of proceeds in the United States. And we're going to, all of our, there's super complicated, but I love talking about it. There's a thing called AVOD, which is advertising on demand, and we'll retain 90% of return from AVOD based on the way that we're going. And so there's a way that we can immediately get it out into the world and get people watching it, and also see a return on investment as quickly as we possibly can by doing it this way.
And I will say, I mean, you said the audience is there. I know, like, for me and Jason, we've had a relationship with Raven Banner. We've talked to them about various movies before, and that's kind of how we found out about Crabs. I saw the trailer, and it was that, like, I need to see this movie. So when I was going to Horror Hound and saw it was playing, I was like, this is immediately check. This one I've been waiting to see. And that's how it is. It's that viral marketing. You get it out there, and someone tells someone, and then so on. So
yeah, and Raven,
that's how I got to it. So
they've been with us for a long time. And I think we signed with them for world sales and Canadian distribution back in 2017. And they cut that trailer together, and it's awesome. I mean, I think they did a killer job with the trailer.
Now, I don't know if you can say, or if you know yet, since you're still kind of in the works, when is Crabs looking to make its debut to the world?
I was really optimistic, and I thought it would be the beginning of July, but it's not. Okay. My next hope is the end of August. But to get into the details, I mean, this is the type of stuff that, I mean, I'm a first-time filmmaker, so I'm really learning this on the fly. But it's one of those things where it's like, you think you can set a release date, but then you submit the film to quality control, QC. Okay. And we got a report back and we thought the film was locked, it's done, we finished it, whatever. But there's one little thing where the actor makes his mouth, he goes, shit, but he doesn't actually say it. It's just he's moving his mouth.
Okay.
But because there's no audio with a mouth move, that fails QC for the major platforms. And so because of that one thing, we have to send it back to our post house, get the actor to re-record a line of dialogue, have the post house put the line of dialogue into the film, re-export the film, resubmit the film to QC, and now we're 3 weeks down the line.
Wow. Okay.
So one tiny little thing like that can completely alter the plan of release. And so that, and then, we're working on, we have all these bonus features, but the bonus features have to be in a very specific file format in order to be put up on these platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm now reconverting all of the bonus features into a new file format to resubmit. And then like our trailer didn't pass QC because it has too much blood in it. And so on iTunes, you can't have a trailer that has a significant amount of blood. And so we may have to now recut the trailer or use just a clip from the film to put on all the platforms in order to even secure a release date. So the package has to be completely submitted before they'll even give you a release date. And then there's about a 3-week window. So optimistically, the end of August. Realistically, probably sometime in September.
Okay. So just, follow you guys and watch for it. It's coming. It's coming soon.
It's coming very soon. We have a ton of marketing content that we're going to be putting out, ton of behind the scenes stuff, putting together like a cool Blu-ray. We're going to have a bunch of stuff on our website. We're going to be doing a big launch. It's just, I don't have the date for it yet.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, this is your first feature. You've done shorts before. What is one of your biggest challenges trying to get this film completed?
I'm
sure you have a laundry list, but
yeah, well, making a short, I mean, the way I used to make shorts is basically like I would strap a boom pole to my back and I would, have the camera here and I'd film and edit and write and do everything all myself. It was like a one-man crew because I'm in college and I didn't go to film school. So I was like one of the only people making movies at the college I went to. So, working on a bigger project is a completely different thing. It's like, it's not even in the same world as working on a short, at least in my experience, because when you increase this and Crabs, the scope of Crabs is like way too, I shouldn't have made this as my first movie just because it's so big. Like we have so many actors and so many locations and, 3 stages of 4 creature suits, 3 stages of special effects. We've got, a giant kaiju fight at the end of the movie that was filmed on a green screen. And I had no idea, I'd never filmed on a green screen before. So I had no idea how to do this. So we put the tracking markers in the wrong spot and then had to rotoscope the creatures out of the green screen frame by frame, but we shot it in 300 frames per second. And so you're cutting out every creature from 300 frames for 15 minutes of footage. And then figuring out how to, we had 3 different cinematographers shooting different parts of the movie. And so trying to match the look from one cinematographer to another was really challenging. But I think the biggest challenge was not knowing. There wasn't a rule book. There wasn't a, here are the steps to make a movie at every stage.
Okay.
And I realized that a lot of people might think they know what they're doing, but they're really, a lot of people are really open about giving advice. But some of that advice isn't good advice. And so weeding through the advice I got on how to finish the film, was really challenging because in the end of the day, I had to learn how to do it all myself. So that I could see what worked and what didn't work. And so failing over and over and over and maintaining I have to get this project done. I believe in the project. I'm committed to finishing it. I'm committed to the quality being the same throughout the whole project. Because there's periods of time where it was like, I could have just said, it's good enough. Let's be done. I just want to be finished with this. But I had to maintain the only way this is going to work and then an audience is going to like it is if the quality is maintained throughout. And so being insistent on maintaining that quality was really challenging. And now, distribution is an entirely new challenge. So just pushing through. I mean,
Okay.
the hardest thing is just like pushing through every little challenge, because every time you feel like you take a step back, or you take a step forward, there's 6 more brick walls in your way, and you have to, and you didn't see coming. And so it's like, okay, well, now you got to bash through the next wall, and then there's another 6 walls. And so just sort of hyping myself up is basically the biggest challenge.
And what's funny is I've talked to quite a few indie horror filmmakers, and the theme is a lot the same of like, you just got to keep pushing forward even when you get knocked back. So it's just that go. Now let me ask you, for your first feature, what made you decide on killer horseshoe crabs?
So I used to go down to Georgia as a kid, and on the beach, they're the horseshoe crab shells, and they molt. So they're not actually dead horseshoe crabs. They're just like the molt. They're like a spider. So they crawl out of their skin, and so they leave their shells all over the beach, and they're terrifying. I mean, they look like a face hugger with the little the claws on the inside, and they're like an armored tank on the outside. And they've got these like dead eyes that have no motion, and they don't blink, and they're just like these hard eyes on the top of their head, and they look prehistoric and terrifying. And I had never seen them used in a movie, and to me that was weird. Like, there's so many monsters. I mean, my favorite genre of movie really is like the killer animal movies. I like that, and like the nature run amok stuff. But the fact that I'd never seen horseshoe crabs, I thought was weird, because they're so obviously a creature that could go amok. So I wrote the script and had no intention of, like, it was really strange and out there. And, we've got kaiju and kid in a wheelchair building mechanical legs. And I figured that no one would ever give me the time of day if I showed this script as like my first movie. And then I worked on a couple other projects. I produced 2 other movies. And then we got to the point where the producers of those movies were like, I know you want to direct. Do you have a script? And I had been working on this other project that was like a possession movie. And possession, this is back in 2014. So possession movies were a big deal back then.
Okay.
And I thought, if I make something low budget like the things that are popular now, maybe I can get a foot in to then make all the movies that I really want to make down the road. Because I love possession movies, but they're not where my heart is. They're like, I enjoy them, but I never really felt like that was the story I wanted to tell. So I was trying to tell a story so that I could then tell the stories I really wanted to tell, because I thought that was a movie I could make. And then one of the producers gave me the best bit of advice that I'll never forget, which is, if you are not 100% committed to this story, and your heart is not like, I have to make this story, I have to tell this story, don't do it, because there's a high likelihood that you might spend 4 years on a project that you hate and never want to make a movie ever again. And he had just gotten off of a project that had taken him, 4 or 5 years to get off the ground. And by the end of the project, I don't think he liked his movie anymore. And that would be devastating, right? To work so hard on something and then hate it. And so so they're like, what movie do you really want to make? And I'm like, well, I want to make this Crabs movie that I wrote when I was 19. And I showed them the script, and they're like, we honestly don't know how to do any of the special effects or anything like that, but if you want to make this, let's go do it. And so then we just piecemealed, figured it out along the way.
Now, you said you love like the creature movies. That's kind of what started the inspiration for Crabs. Are there any people or any films that really inspired you in making this?
The number one is 8-Legged Freaks.
God, I love that movie so much.
Love that movie. That movie needs so much more love. It is.
Yes.
It is like peak awesome monster movie. This is just a cool little serendipitous story. We're going to be showing Crabs on July 8th in New York City at the Lower East Side Film Festival. So if you have any listeners that want to go and check out the movie, it's going to be on July 8th in New York City. But they're doing a double feature Crabs and Eight-Legged Freaks because it's the 20th anniversary of Eight-Legged Freaks.
Okay.
And I didn't even ask them to do that. They're just like, so anyway, and David Arquette might actually come to the screening. So I'm super hyped about that. But Eight-Legged Freaks is a huge one. I love The Thing. I really, the 90s had some really great. Anaconda was really fun. I like Deep Blue Sea is one of my all-time favorites too.
Okay, yeah.
But for Crabs, the origin of Crabs is really Gremlins. Honestly, it was Gremlins, Jurassic Park, and Godzilla were like the three movies that I wanted to ape from this one. Gremlins was. I love movies that are one step away from reality, where it's not sci-fi, it's not so futuristic, where every component is like a new world. I've recently gotten into fantasy, so I'm learning to really love fantasy worlds too. But when I made Crabs, what I really loved was like, we're in our world, we're in reality, and then you take one step outside of that. And like Jurassic Park's a great example of that, where if you start in reality and then you're just a little bit outside of that. And so with Crabs, what I wanted to do was, Gremlins is like that too. I wanted to make a movie that was like inched its way, where every act was just one more step outside of reality. And so I was trying to do, it was like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is another one. I love weird science. I love, John Hughes. I wanted to sort of make a conglomeration of all of the 90s and 2000s movies that I loved and 80s, put them all sort of together. Yes, there's a lot of like the mechanical legs are straight out of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Weird Science. Like I love or Back to the Future, like the flux capacitor. I like nonsense science words and science in movies, because then you can kind of do anything. But if you give it a weird name, people just go along with you.
Yeah,
so we've got those. I also like the sort of saccharine romance, like heartfelt teen comedies, not like sex comedies, but like Breakfast Club. And so I wanted to have like a prom scene out of something like that. Anyway, there's a lot of inspiration in this movie.
And there is a scene in the movie that is heavily influenced by Gremlins. Yes.
Oh yeah. Straight rip off of Gremlins. Yeah.
And you said Eight-Legged Freaks, because one of the questions I was going to ask was your decision to give the crabs these little voices. And myself and Drew from the podcast, the Real Feels podcast, we just talked Eight-Legged Freaks, and one of our favorite things about that movie is the little voices that those spiders get. So that was something like that was the influence to give them voices, or did you always want them to have little voices?
I knew that all the little creatures would have voices. I knew. Okay. What's funny, because it's like I think Gremlins was probably the inspiration for that, but Critters does it. Eight-Legged Freaks does it. I mean, they're like most of the little creature movies have that little. There's a recent one that I love. Bad Milo has an awesome little creature voice, and so I'm sure that Eight-Legged Freaks probably took it from Gremlins. I can't think of something prior to Gremlins that has the same little creature voice. So I think I probably took that from Gremlins, but it just felt obvious.
Yeah.
And probably just because it's in the sort of the narrative history of the genre that I knew that we needed that. But something cool is that the voices are all done by Chase, who plays Radu. So Radu does all the little crab voices too.
And that was another question I wanted to ask you, is how did the Radu character come about? Like, was he written out that way, or did Chase just kind of take it and run?
Kind of both, actually. So the original idea behind Radu was I wanted somebody that was out of time and place, that acted as initially you would think of him as the absurd character. But then as the movie gets more absurd, Radu then becomes the audience's sort of linchpin to watch the rest of the absurdity. So he would be commenting on the crazy things that the rest of the characters are accepting as real. So he's the outsider that actually is the eyes of the audience, is where I was the intention behind his character. But I also wanted to make sure that he doesn't come from anywhere, doesn't represent anybody. He has no geographic location, because I realized that, you know, if we're doing this put on accent, he could come off as rather offensive if it was like this, he is from this place. And I never wanted to do that. And the other thing is that there are characters in the 80s and 90s. There's sort of the other trope character that is the foreign exchange student, or the token character, or whatever. And they typically die early on. And there's like there's tropes in the horror genre that I understand why they exist, and I understand their reference to the time period of why they exist, but they're not needed, or they don't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to take that and sort of do my own thing with it, because the movie is basically a huge homage to monster movies and genre movies in general. So I was trying to take as many tropes as I could and play with them myself. So Radu, at one point, you might think he's going to die, and then he doesn't. And then he sort of becomes a hero character by the end of the movie. And I wanted to have you think that he is one thing and then give you something completely different.
Okay.
How well that works, I don't know, but that was the intention.
Now, what is something making this film that you think will help you when you decide to jump into your next one?
Oh man, all of it. Honestly, I feel like I got wrong just about everything I possibly could have gotten wrong. And I know that even saying that is naive, because I know that I will get so much more wrong on my next project, right? Like all the things that I don't even know that I don't know are things that I will probably need to do an entire new learning experience on my next project. Like I can't imagine that every project is that similar, but in terms of the mechanics of making a movie, especially post-production and distribution, I now understand the world in a way that I never could have if I hadn't gone through it. Like the thing that I felt like I had the easiest time with, that going into the next project I'm not going to be worried about, is working with actors. So I thought that was going to be the number one most difficult thing on Crabs, was getting a great performance out of actors. And that was easy. I mean, that aspect of it felt kind of effortless in making Crabs. Everything else was really challenging. And so, especially the business aspect of making a movie. Kevin Smith has, if there's any filmmaker that speaks on this and really understands the complexities of this, and like talks to filmmakers about how important the business aspect of it is, it's just as important as the creative. And if you're not willing to do both, you're going to be in for a really, really, really hard time. Everything Kevin Smith has to say on this is completely, totally accurate. And having gone through it and seeing, I'm so glad I read some of his books and listened to what he had to say about filmmaking before making this movie, because knowing that there's an other side of the process, like once you're through all the challenges, there is an opening at the end, of the tunnel. But yeah, I feel like I actually now understand how to make and put out a feature film. And I did not know how to do that before. And what I'd really love to do is I'd love to be able to somewhat help other independent filmmakers, give that back to them in some capacity. Like, because going into every filmmaker, they have this grand idea. They're like, I want to tell stories. That's the reason that people become filmmakers. Mm-hmm. They have a great visual idea, a great story idea, or something that they want to get out. But there are so many aspects of making a movie, especially after the movie's actually made, that nobody has any idea about, that they can't be taught. Like, unless somebody's gone through it and is explaining it to you. At least for me, I had no way of having known any of it. And it's a shame because I feel like so many filmmakers get to that point and don't have the resources or the time in order to continue through the process to see their film out into the world, that they either sign a deal that's not a good deal for them, where they won't see any money, and then have no means to make a second film, or the movie never actually gets out into the world in any meaningful capacity, which then they never get to see a second film. And so the industry is really not set up for first-time filmmakers to succeed, which is it's a shame, because I imagine that a lot of first-time filmmakers would love to make a second movie.
Yeah. Now, aside from obviously the distribution, is there anything else going on with Crabs? Are you continuing to have screenings across the country, midnight shows? Do you see it becoming hopefully a cult thing? Like,
that would be awesome. So we're going to be doing the screening in New York City. There's going to be a screening on Vachin Island. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It's there's an island in I'll put it out on Vachin Island Film Festival. A friend of mine is running the film festival, and so we'll be screening it there. Okay. And then there's a couple other festivals down the road that I'm really hoping we get into. Kevin Smith's Smodcast festival is running their first festival this year, and we've submitted there. I'd love to be able to go there. And then we're going to be doing a couple theatrical screenings in like the town where we shot the film, and probably the town I grew up in. Okay. I would love to partner with a theater to do some midnight screenings and drive-in screenings and stuff like that. But at the moment, I'm focusing all of my attention on the release. And then basically, once the movie's released, because I will hold the rights to everything we do in the US, we can then plan things based on the reception of the film. So if it does become some cult thing, we can do as many screenings as people want. So if there's a call for it, if people really want to see, the movie in theaters, we can make that happen.
Okay. Now, after, all said and done, and you're like, okay, Crabs is out in the world, what's next for you? Do you have a next movie lined up that you want to tackle?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. I've got a sequel for Crabs idea. So Crabs does really well. There's a Crabs 2, 3, and maybe 4 in terms of like the story that I've got in my brain. And then so back to Radu real quick. So Radu on the page was very rough, but Radu became a real character by Chase doing improvisation.
Okay.
And that was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, was working with improv. And once I realized that we could do that, I kind of I let go of a lot of the script, and because the actors after 2 or 3 days know exactly what the character is. Yeah. And so I could trust them and be like, here's the goal of the scene. This is what your character wants. This is the key line of dialogue we need to get out at some point. Have fun. Let's play with it. And so for my next project, I would love to be able to really work with improv. And so I have this idea to do a movie with Chase that's basically David Attenborough versus Steve Irwin. And we would do it in a mockumentary, like a Best in Show style mockumentary.
Okay. Yep.
And Chase would play at least one of those characters, if not both of them. He also has a brother that maybe the brother would play the other one. And so, but the whole movie would basically be improv. And then I also have an action movie that I'd love to make that's more or less. One of the things with Crabs is that it was really complicated. There was a lot of moving parts, a lot of motivation, a lot of special effects, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to do a project that cuts all of the fat away and is like the sleekest, most trimmed down story I could possibly tell, which is this revenge story. It's a man loses his son and wants to go kill the king. And that's the story. So it would basically, the way I'm thinking about it conceptually is like John Wick with swords.
All right. I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, Pierce, I want to thank you so much for talking to me. I mean, it was great meeting you when you were out here in Cincinnati and getting to chat with you then. And, best of luck with Crabs. And
Thank
where
you.
can everybody follow along so they can watch for when Crabs is coming or anything else you have coming?
Yeah, thanks for having me too. This has been great. If you want to check out Crabs, it's a Crabs movie on Instagram and TikTok. You can ignore Crabs movie on Twitter. That is an account that we created a long time ago, and nobody knows what the email or password is to log in. So
Okay.
there's no Crabs movie on Twitter, but Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook is where we're going to be posting things on each of them, some on the same, new things on different ones, behind the scenes stuff. We've got a bunch of stuff coming in the next couple months on all three of those.
Okay. Well,
it's
awesome.
just Crabs movie, at Crabs movie.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, and best of luck with the film.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Again, I want to thank Pierce for talking to me. It was a great discussion, and I cannot wait for the Crabs Blu-ray specifically to come out because I want to hear the commentary with Chase as Radu. I think that will be hilarious. And watch for Crabs. Crabs is coming out very soon, so make sure you watch for it and check it out. So, henceforth, Jason and I are going to talk Crabs. We might hit a few spoilers, and it's the kind of movie that, if it's spoiled, big deal. It's still a really fun movie.
Yes. First off, it's only an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
It felt like it was a little bit longer, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but he threw a lot in there.
Yes, he did. There was a lot coming at you, and a lot of, as he said in his interview, I mean, a lot of influences from Gremlins. He was like, the one scene, he's like, I just ripped that off from Gremlins. And Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yep.
And then, your little crabs kind of have that little voices, which I loved. I absolutely love that.
Yes. I was not expecting the voices. I did like in the very beginning, I like that there's a nuclear power plant on a beach.
And it just exploded.
Yes. I don't think the government would allow that, but I could be wrong.
Probably not, but
I could be wrong.
Where they live, I guess they allow it.
Yes.
How did it not affect the people?
I do feel like there should have been more than 2 sheriffs and police officers that's patrolled this area because it was a pretty big area to patrol. I will say that.
Yeah, because they're doing a whole, beach line and everything, including this little town.
Yes. But no, overall, I mean, seriously, Crabs was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I think
they kind of managed. They got it, except for the giant whale with the bite taken out of it, and it kind of threw him off a little bit. A little excitement for the town. He
wanted to poke it with a stick.
Yeah.
I just want to poke it with a stick. Because that's what you do with dead carcasses in movies. And I was like, no, don't do it. Well, the good news is, like any Raven Banner entertainment film, it starts with a nude scene right off the bat.
That it did.
As soon as it came on, I was like, man, we're Raven Banner right there. Here we go.
And for those who don't know, Crabs is a horde of murderous crab monsters descend on a sleepy coastal town on prom night. And only a ragtag group of outcasts can save the day.
Yes.
And this is a complete throwback to those films that you and I grew up in, like 80s, early 90s, like loving. Like
it was
ridiculous
like
characters. Yeah.
I got a very Critters vibe from this film, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Critters, Gremlins, all that.
Not Critters 4, though. That wasn't as good. Critters 3, much better. Critters 10. And I will say, like, let me check and make sure. Robert Craighead, who played the sheriff, I don't know what he's been in, but I've seen him in a lot. And I don't know what he's been in. I guess I can look here. But I felt like I've seen him. And I felt like I saw a couple of actors in other things that we've seen. Maybe it's just Raven Banner. But I definitely...
I mean, we have watched a lot of Raven Banner movies. I don't know if some of these other actors have been in those. I will say Chase Padgett, who played Radu, he completely made the entire movie for me.
Yeah, he's Russian?
Yeah. He's not supposed to have any particular, like, accent at all. He's just a person from another country. They don't like say where he's from or set where he's from. He's just
It's kind of like Top Gun Maverick. We won't tell you what the bad guys are, but we're going to blow them up.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you what country.
Basically. So he's he kind of speaks what comes to his brain without filter, and it's hilarious.
Radu is awesome. He's a ninja. I like that he is the one crab dies in the alley, and he literally spends 5 minutes monologuing and mocking it until it grows back.
The little baby crab, and then it grows big, and then it's like, oh crap.
Yes. And I like the female lead. Let me make sure I get that right. Maddie, I think.
Yes, Allie Jennings plays Maddie.
Yes. I like how the crab dies and is dying, and she's trying to reach out and touch it. And like the crab claw comes out, and I'm like, this is a bad idea, even if it's not a mutated crab. Right? Like, this is what you see on America's Funniest Videos. They're going to hit you. Like, come on.
And that's what people would do too. They would do stuff just like that.
That is true. That is true. There's a lot. Look at Yellowstone. There's a lot of people getting gored by bison because they go up and pet the furry cows. So I get it. That probably is accurate, Brad.
So it's based off of actual facts, maybe not events. I mean, I don't know of any mutated horseshoe crabs running around that we have to run from, but
they don't want you to know those stories, Brad. It's happened. So I do like the evolution of these crabs. Like, they go from little. First off, they attack these lovers on a beach.
Yes,
and I like the woman. She's like, "Oh no, he's dead." Like, she's like, "Okay, I'm running off." Like, doesn't even worry about like, is he okay?
Well, then you see her later because she got attacked. You see her later, and it's like half her face has been like eaten off, and she's like, "Crabs."
But I mean, overall, like I said, I like the evolution of the crabs throughout the film.
I love that, and I love just the characters themselves. You know, you mentioned Maddie, and then the other main, played by Dylan Riley Snyder, Philip, who in the beginning, like, he's in a wheelchair and he's like really smart, trying to use his science to create legs for himself so he can go to prom and be able to dance and walk and everything else. And then he uses the science smarts later to build a giant kaiju too.
Can we talk about that real quick? So I'm watching this. I've watched it twice. I watch it and I still don't know how we have a turn to kaiju at the end. Like,
you know what? I honestly don't care, and I was all for it. When that happened, I was like, all right, let's go. This is great.
I'm not offended. I'm not upset. I just was not expecting, when I'm watching this whole thing, to turn into, like, obviously they become crabs and they become humanoids, and then, you know, they keep getting bigger. But I'm like, I was not expecting that. Like, that was not my thought.
And I love that the like 80s montage where they get everybody together and they're going to build, and they're like all these little parts, and they're like building this. And when they're done, it's this giant robot.
Yes.
And you're like, wow, you built that in like 2 minutes.
I like how they took the giant crab's, the queen's claw off, and she uses it as a weapon later.
Yeah.
She's just holding it.
And you get Radu kind of commentating as they're fighting, which is great.
Because you know that they put those three characters there and they just said, go to town. That's all he did.
Oh, yeah. They had to. They had to have been like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Just kind of go with it, and we'll kind of we'll cut it in.
My favorite small little gag is Hunter Oh my God, I didn't even realize it. Hunter McAllister's the deputy. Hunter McAllister. I do an impression of Hunter McAllister. I don't even realize it.
I don't even know who Hunter McAllister is.
He's the character. The character's name, Bryce Durfee. He's the sheriff or the deputy. He's the
deputy, but Hunter McAllister, is that like a name from something else, or?
No, I just made that name up actually years ago when we were driving through.
Okay.
we were driving through a rich part of Alabama, if there is such a thing, and I was annoying my kids on occasion, like, Hunter McAllister lives at this estate. How you doing? And I realized his name was Hunter. I didn't realize it was McAllister. Oh my god, this is perfect. Anyways, when Hunter McAllister, when
it just got an extra star from you for that.
Yes. So my favorite small little gag is at the end when they're watching this kaiju fight and he's driving, he comes back and he rolls out of the car and just lands right next to them. He rolls and then he stands up like, "Hey, how's it going?" And it was like, I don't know why. It just made me laugh. That small little bit though. But yeah.
It was all great. And then the other main is played by Jessica Morris, Annalise. She plays Maddie's mom, who kind of has a thing for Deputy Hunter.
That's right.
Who Hunter used to be a student long ago, and now they're like, I don't know. This is like a great throwback to like old 80s, just schlocky monster films. And it's called Crabs. What more are you expecting? If you're clicking on a movie called Crabs,
yes,
what do you think you're going to get?
You know what though, and I enjoyed the film a lot. It was a very, like you said, and like we've talked about, it's a very Critters, Gremlins, type of film. And when you go into that, you're expecting that type of humor and fun, and that's what it was. I feel like it delivered on that.
It was very similar to last year when I saw Psycho Gorman. It was a very throwback to a lot of the 90s stuff. It had like feels of Power Rangers and other like direct-to-video type movies that I watched growing up, and I fell in love with it. And this is kind of that same way. It's that throwback of all these movies I used to watch, and I'm like, oh yes, I love this.
If you saw this back in the 90s, if this was made in the 90s and this was at Blockbuster, you would see the cover and be like, I have to rent this.
Absolutely. I would have.
I could definitely see the VHS case and having like two claws come up above the VHS case. Like I could see something like that. The little
like
crab
it's the box, but then it's just like protruding out. And like,
yes, with the little chompers. And maybe you could have moved them. It was something like that. Like how Jack Frost had the eyes moving on the hologram and that. I think you could have done something with that.
And it probably would have been the movie, maybe not once a week, but at least once every other week. I'd probably go and be, okay, it's in. I'm renting this one this week again.
Yes. So
back when you had to do that, when you couldn't just get it on demand whenever you wanted.
Kids nowadays.
Kids don't understand.
No. And VHS was like a big tape, like a cassette tape. You had to put it into a box and watch the movie. You actually had to. And then you had to do the tracking. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
Because it was screwing up. But my point is with like this being like a Critters, Gremlins type film, like there's so many, and we've seen a lot of horror movies that, have this big, revenge or torture porn type films or serial killer movies. Like, I don't know if they take themselves too seriously. I feel like torture porn movies always take themselves too seriously. They do. But like they always try to like be something they're not, and I feel like a lot of them lose their way with that in the film. And this one knew what it was from the beginning, and you knew what you were getting.
Oh yeah, you know what you're getting. It from the first scene with the two people having sex on the beach, and then they find this crab and it eats the dude's face off. Like, well, even the nuclear plant. As soon as you see that explode with the special effects, you're like, all right, I know what I'm getting. I know what we're in for. I'm just gonna enjoy this ride, and I enjoyed this ride all the way through.
I will say. Radu, again, like you mentioned, is the star of the show. He's not, but he is, because he's hilarious.
Oh, he is hilarious. Did you watch all of the end credits with the song that he sings?
Yes. So, how much of that was ad-libbed?
When I talked to Pierce, I think that there was a lot that he did. Like, they wrote it out, but then there were times where it's like you just let him go and go, you know what, that works better.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do your thing. He hasn't been in a ton of movies.
Adventure to Fitness. It's a TV series short.
Mm.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of shorts. That's it.
Yeah.
Alter Ego. Oh God, Alter Ego.
But I think he's great, and then I hope he gets more work because he was hilarious. He reminded me somewhat of Rainn Wilson.
Yeah. You know what?
But with a not as over the top as a Jim Carrey humor, but kind of crazy like that a little bit.
He's not subtle in it.
No, not at all.
And I do like that no one believes him that the crabs are killing people because he's on shrooms. Like, he goes into the bar scene and they're like,
"Oh, that is so funny.
What are you talking about? Get the hell out of here!" And then he's pissed off, so he just messes up the pool game.
Yeah, he's like,
and the guy's like, "What the heck was that?" Yeah, it really is. It's a fun film.
It's an extremely fun film. Now, what do we want to give a rating on it? Like mine, I had so much fun with this. When I saw it at Horror Hound, I immediately just gave it 5 stars because this is a movie I can put on anytime. I've watched it 3 times now, and I could put it on anytime, watch it, laugh, and just have a blast. And to me, that's a 5-star movie in itself. Is it the greatest movie ever? No, but it entertains the shit out of me, so I'm going to watch it over and over again.
Yeah. So from a film perspective, it's probably like a 3-star, right? 2.5 to 3 stars.
Yeah.
From a fun, enjoyable film that you could watch over and over, I agree. It's a 4.5 stars. Look at that. Even the font's good, and it has the claw.
It does. That's what the case would be.
Yeah,
like that would be almost kind of like a puffed out on the VHS case if you were a Blockbuster.
Can you
kind of be puffy? Anything more you want to say on Crabs?
No, it's fun. I mean, overall, it's a
Absolutely
fun film to watch. You could picture this one being on Sci-Fi Network or Syfy on cable, and just getting traction. Like, you could play this like over and over.
Hopefully you guys will get to see it by August or September. It will be out on your digital platforms and a Blu-ray out, so watch for it. I highly recommend, especially if you're you love Critters, you love Gremlins, you love Eight-Legged Freaks, you love that silly type of films. Like, watch for Crabs. Thank you for watching another one. I'm glad that we were finally able to get back together. It took Crabs to get us back together.
How many relationships can say that?
Make sure you follow Jason. Where can we find History of Bad Ideas?
Bad Ideas Podcast on Twitter. History of Bad Ideas on Facebook. We do lots of entertainment news daily. And then every Tuesday night, we drop an episode of pop culture news at History of Bad Ideas on, I don't know, iTunes or whatever it's called now.
Everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
And for me, the Cinema Guys, just wearethecinemaguys.com. You can find everything up there. We get podcasts out when we can now.
And you, Justin.
But make sure you follow our channel here. Jason and I are hopefully going to get back together, do more of these. Yes. As well as I do a Tubi series now called Tubi Tuesday. So here on YouTube. So make sure you watch for that. And we will be back hopefully soon with a new one.
Yes.
And thank you very much. Until next time, maybe we will see you at the movies.
Bye.